So originally, I was planning on making a video about who is going to win the Andrew Luckless AFC South. I thought about potentially the Colts winning this division with Jacoby Brissett taking over for Andrew Luck. I am a believer in Brissett. I believe in their offensive line as an elite unit. I believe in Frank Reich. They still have T.Y. Hilton. They still have some dangerous weapons with Eric Ebron, but I just can't quite believe that a team that is losing a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, Andrew Luck retiring, impacts the rest of the team. It makes T.Y. Hilton not as dangerous. It makes their offensive line not as great. It makes the running game not as prominent. The defense has more pressure on its shoulders. So to me, I can't count on the Colts. I can't bet on them. Would I be shocked if they won this division with Jacoby Brissett? No, because I'm a fan of Jacoby Brissett. And again, I love Frank Reich, and I love what the Colts have been doing as an organization, even beyond Andrew Luck. As for the other teams, when you look at the Tennessee Titans, I really love their defense. I believe it's a top 10, if not a top 5 defense, the way that Mike Vrabel and Dean Pease is running it. They have a fantastic secondary, some playmakers up front, and they've added some more playmakers this offseason. They have a better offensive line from last year, despite the suspension to Lewan. The running game's solid. The receivers are better. But I don't believe in the quarterback position. And it hasn't really given me any faith throughout this preseason and this training camp that it's going to be any better. The Houston Texans, of course, are probably going to be most people's pick to win this division without Andrew Luck. They have the best quarterback in the division, and it's not really a competition. Deshaun Watson is a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber quarterback, and he can carry a team by himself. J.J. Watt's one of the best defensive players in the league. DeAndre Hopkins is arguably the best receiver. But when you get beyond those 3 players, I don't really love the coaching. The offensive line is horrendous and one of the worst in the league. They just lost their starting running back, Lamar Miller. And while Duke Johnson's not really a big downgrade from Lamar Miller, I don't see them being able to run the ball with consistency. Defensively, I feel like they were a little overrated last year. They're good up front, but I don't trust that secondary. I just don't believe the Texans have the full team to make it happen. I think it's clear. I think the Jags are the best team in this division, and to me, it's not really that close. This Jags team, if they just get a little bit more luck, they'll be a lot better this season in 2019, and with Andrew Luck going down, it really opens up the Jags to reclaim the AFC South. This is a team that 2 seasons ago went to the AFC Championship game. And not only did they go to the AFC Championship game, a lot of people love to bring that up, but they almost won. And they didn't almost just win against anybody. They almost beat the New England Patriots. That's not easy to do. And they almost beat the Patriots in New England. You can probably name me 2 teams, maybe 3, I think it's only 2, that have beat the Patriots in New England in the playoffs. And the Jags were literally this close to beating them if it weren't for some incredible Tom Brady magic and Danny Amendola clutchness. The Jags would have been in the Super Bowl and they would have had a chance against the Nick Foles Eagles. So that's the team we're talking about here. It's not too far removed. It's only 2 seasons, 1 season in between the upcoming season. And the talent, the foundation, the core is very much the same. Last season, what happened? The Jags were expected to do things last year. They had high expectations. They were expected to win their division. They were expected to go far in the playoffs. What happened? Well, they started the 2018 season 3-1. Which is a pretty good record, including beating the Patriots in that stretch. And then they proceeded to lose 7 straight games. 7 straight games. And why did they lose these 7 straight games? Well, mostly because they had no offense. Their offense was horrendous, and it was led by the worst quarterback in football, Blake Bortles. So what did they do this offseason? They go out, they sign the best quarterback they can find, the clutch man himself, Nick Foles. Nick Foles, the Super Bowl champion, the magical Nick Foles, is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback. Now, where does that leave the Jags in terms of quarterback play within the AFC South? Well, it leaves them with the second best quarterback. And even when they won this division, they probably had the worst quarterback in the division and the worst quarterback in football. Now they actually have maybe not a fantastic Hall of Famer, but a guy that is at least average. And I've said it many times, I'll say it again. The biggest upgrade in football to your team is not getting a great quarterback. It is going from the worst quarterback to just an average quarterback. That allows the team to do so much more offensively, and it takes so much pressure off one of the best defenses in football. Why do I have faith that Nick Foles is going to be able to play? Because we've seen Nick Foles leave Philadelphia before and he failed. Well, he's actually bringing along with him John DeFilippo, who's the offensive coordinator now for the Jags. And he was the offensive coordinator for Minnesota last season. Some ups, some downs there. He was eventually fired. But I do believe this is going to be a successful hire because he understands Nick Foles. They have previous chemistry. He understands what Foles does well. He put him in good situations as the quarterback coach in Philly before, and they won a Super Bowl together. They just click. I believe the biggest jump you will see on this Jags roster is from the wide receiver group, because now they're going from, like I said, the worst quarterback to an average quarterback. And Nick Foles is a quarterback that gets the most out of his receivers. Nick Foles trusts his receivers. Notice in the playoffs last season, in the playoffs when he won the Super Bowl with Philadelphia, he would trust his receivers. Whether it was Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz at tight end, he would throw it up, even Torrey Smith. Throw it up and give those guys an opportunity to make plays. I believe D.D. Westbrook is a prime candidate across the NFL to break out. John DeFilippo called him the best route runner he's ever seen or ever coached, which is high praise considering this guy just coached Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen last season. Now, I don't know how much of that is coach speak, but that's at least a huge positive. And D.D. Westbrook, if he can become a top 20 receiver in this league, that opens up this entire offense, along with a guy like Keelan Cole, who I really like his potential. I think he's shown in the past that he does have something there, a little bit of a spark. Chris Connolly comes over from Kansas City. DJ Chark is looking like one of the best players in camp coming into his second season. So there's a lot of receivers here with a lot of talent, a lot of athleticism, a good mix of quickness, size, speed, especially speed, that Nick Foles will be able to pass the football to. And I think we're finally going to see these guys, at least one or maybe two of them, elevate into the players that they should have been maybe a season or two ago, with Blake Bortles being there, because the quarterback play is going to be so much better. And again, Nick Foles trusts his receivers and gives them chances to shine. Another receiver who is coming back from injury is Marquise Lee. Now, I don't think Marquise Lee is going to be a guy that breaks out, but he is a guy that's solid. He's a nice complementary piece. He's a nice security blanket there to have for Nick Foles. Another thing that Nick Foles does very well, which is where I believe Marquise Lee will come in handy, is quick passes. He's very good with decision making, and this is the type of quarterback you want on a team with a solid defense that you can count on to limit the turnovers, interceptions, fumbles, whatever it may be, and also help your offensive line, which struggled a year ago. As high as I am on Nick Foles and the potential passing attack that the Jags do possess in 2019, the core of this offense, or the star of this offense, is going to be the running game and Leonard Fournette. I'm a little concerned about what's behind Leonard Fournette given his injury history. I don't feel like they have a nice backup there in Jacksonville, but if Fournette does stay healthy, this will be his best season ever, because just like the receivers, he has a passing attack. He's not going to have 8 guys in the box as much. It's going to be easier for him to run the football, and he runs a punishing, strong style that's going to wear out a defense, and then you hit him with those speedy, quick receivers down the field. I think this is a nice complementary passing attack to the rushing attack of Leonard Fournette. And if he stays healthy, he definitely has the talent to be a top 10 guy in football this season. When doing my research for the Jags coming into this season, one big thing I did notice was the injuries that they sustained last season. So the Jags really were hurt, and it wasn't just that they were hurt to mediocre players, borderline roster guys. These were some of their best players, but also players that make up their identity. So what is the Jags' identity, especially the last 2 seasons? Well, it's defense, especially the secondary, and it's also offensive line play with a strong rushing attack. So who was injured last season for the Jags? Well, 3 of their primary offensive linemen, I would call them the 3 best offensive linemen on Jacksonville. You have Linder, their center, who missed 7 games, put on IR last season. Norwell, who missed 5 games and was put on IR as well. And Cam Robinson, who missed 14 games. So when you look at that, that's their 3 best offensive linemen, 3 guys that are great run blockers, and Andrew Norwell's one of the best pass blockers in the game at his position. That's manpower up front. And like I always say, games are won and lost up front. You guys know this. So if they get these guys back and healthy, we have no idea how much that's going to help this offense. And then you look at Leonard Fournette, who missed 4 games last season. If he can come back and play all 16 games, that's their identity. Again, why were the Jags successful in 2017? They had Leonard Fournette when they needed him, and he was able to run the football. Look at that Steelers game, for example, where he was the primary guy in that game, and he was so essential to what they wanted to do with their football team that without him, they're not the same team. I don't care what the stats say. When Leonard Fournette is on the field, the Jags are a better team because that is their identity. And of course, Marquise Lee, he missed 16 games, and he's arguably their best receiver. So then you take a look at the defense, and I already brought it up. Their identity was their secondary. Well, you're missing 2 of your top 3 corners for 7 games. AJ Bouye missed 3 games, who's one of the best number 2 corners in the game, if not the best. And then you look at DJ Hayden, who's a solid slot corner, missed 4 games. So that's 7 games of your secondary where you count on Ramsey and Bouye shutting down receivers to win you games. So that's 7 games from your corners. That's 20 plus games from your offensive line and missing 2 primary playmakers for 20 games. So the Jags had manpower that was lost in 2018 that I don't think it's going to happen at least as severely in 2019. Adding Nick Foles, in getting back a healthy Leonard Fournette, in getting back a healthy offensive line, in the supposed breakout of a D.D. Westbrook. This is a team that's not going to rank 27th in yards on offense. They're not going to rank 31st in points on offense. That's where the Jags lost their games in 2018. They couldn't score, they couldn't move the ball, and it was thanks to their lackluster quarterback play. It was thanks to the injuries up front, the injuries to Fournette, the injuries to Lee. And if that doesn't happen again, you're looking at a team that actually, even with Blake Bortles, was a top 10 offense in 2017. A lot of people forget that. They had an epic defense, but the offense could score. The offense could move the ball, and at least the offense was a problem for other teams in certain matchups. Last season, none of that. They didn't give any complimentary football to the defense. And the defense still was one of the best in the game. It ranked 4th in points. It ranked 5th in yards in 2018, including 2nd against the pass. So the Jags defense is going to be good. Even when the Jags offense is bad, the defense is good. But the offense just needs to be mediocre. I don't think it's going to be fantastic. I don't even think it's going to be top 10 again. But if it's even around 20-ish, this team has a really good chance of making the playoffs because their defense is that good. This team lost 7 games within 1 score. That is epically horrible in 1-score games. They were 2-7 in 1-score games. If you even get back to the average, they're, let's say, 4-5 in 1-score games. We're looking at the Jags as a 7-9 football team from last season with all those injuries, with the horrible quarterback play, even if they just win those 1-score games. Let's go down the schedule. So they lost to the Titans 9-6. They scored 6 points in that game. They lost to the Colts 29-26, again by a field goal. They lost to the Eagles 24-18. They lost to Houston because they only scored 7 points. They lost 20-7. They lost to Kansas City. Now, the score looks bad, but they gained over 500 yards against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City, and they only scored 14 points. They lost to 20-16 to Pittsburgh, and they probably should have won that game. They lost 24-21 to Buffalo. They won 6-0 against the Colts in one game. They shut out the Indianapolis Colts and won by 6, okay? They only had 211 yards of offense. They lost to the Redskins 16-13, and if I'm not mistaken, this was with Josh Johnson at quarterback. It could have been with Colt McCoy, but I think it was with Josh Johnson, and they had under 200 yards of offense. They lost 16-13, and they also lost 20-3 to Houston with 119 yards of offense. They are going to get more production out of this Nick Foles offense, even if Nick Foles is not good. That's how epically horrible the Jags offense was last season. More reasons to love the Jags in 2019. Their young players are going to have good seasons. I expect Taven Bryan to have a good year in his second season. Ronnie Harrison, in a more prominent role at safety, should have a good season. You look at a Josh Allen who's having a fantastic preseason, was one of the best players in the draft, should have an awesome year, and they won't be lacking pass rush. With Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue, Josh Allen, Marcel Darius, this is a team that can get after the quarterback. And they are going to give some issues to quarterbacks in opposing offenses. Even in games where they're not really in the game, the defense will keep them in the game, which allows them to win some games they probably shouldn't. The cornerback duo is probably still the best in the game with AJ Bouye and Jalen Ramsey. And the last thing I want to leave you with here for the Jags is I believe they have the easiest schedule of their division. When you look at their games, specifically their most difficult games, they all play them at home. Now, they don't play a team like the Patriots this year, but they do play Kansas City. It's at home. They do play the Saints. It's at home. They do play the Chargers. It's at home. Okay? Those are their three most difficult games, and they're all at home, at least the three most difficult opponents. Now, you look at the road games, and yeah, they have some challenging games, and there are some very easy games that are on the road, which I like typically because you're more often going to upset a team at home than you are on the road. They play a team like Cincinnati, they play Oakland, they play Denver. Of course, they play all three division opponents, which it's not impossible that they cannot win those games. The only difficult games on the road really are Atlanta and Carolina. And I think they'll at least be close in those games. I don't think I would favor them to win those games, but it would at least be close. For me, when I look at Jacksonville, from the things that have happened over the past season, the offseason, the team that they've assembled in 2019, I believe they are the team in the AFC South for all these reasons. If you have a reason that I didn't mention here in the comment section below, let me know if I missed anything about the Jags going into 2019, or let me know why I'm wrong. Let me know why the Jags won't win this division, why another team in this division will win it. It's been Mitch of The Bottom Line View. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this. Gronk, spike the like button, and peace out.